Hello, everybody. Adam with WinemakerWineTastings.com. Tonight is Friday, and we usually do our wine tastings on Wednesday for a Wine Down Wednesday. But today we wanted to mix it up a little bit because we are flying over the Atlantic Ocean all the way to Italy tonight, and we are going to be tasting some wines from the Chianti region. And we've got a great winemaker slash owner with us tonight, Sebastiano Cappone. He owns Villa Calcinaia winery in that region. Wonderful Italian wines. So you're going to learn all about Italy's wine production, the Chianti region, the wines. We've got one white and 4 different reds, and they're kind of all over. So I'm going to bring our friend Count Sebastiano into the picture here. Count Sebastiano, how are you today, sir?
I'm well. How are you, Adam?
I'm doing very good. I very much appreciate you taking the time. I know you're many hours ahead, so it's going to be past your bedtime here real soon.
Oh, yeah, way past my bedtime. But it's good to be here.
It's nice to see you. I personally haven't seen you in years since we did a tasting in the Cleveland, Ohio area down in Chagrin Falls. So obviously it's nice to reconnect with you.
Ditto. Always good to see you. Always good to see you.
So what I'd like to do is, obviously I want to get into your winery and your wines, but a lot of people don't have a vast knowledge of Italian wines and that region. Sure. So it might be kind of nice even to talk about some of the basics of the Chianti region and so forth, and kind of go from there. And as questions may pop up on the chat room, I'll shoot them out as well so that we can answer those questions. And then we probably have some pictures we're going to be able to show as well. But I'll let you kind of run with it, and then I'll pop in every so often and ask questions as we go along.
Okay, sounds good. So
the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Adam. I'd like to thank Adam for having me here tonight for this wonderful event. Here at Winemaker Wine Tastings, and I'd like to thank my importer and distributor, Scoperta Importing, for bringing the wines to the United States, and the person who's in charge there is called Tony Marcelli, who's been probably is in the same state where Adam is right now in Arizona, and he's been dealing with my wine since 1990. So I am Sebastiano Capponi. I come from Florence. Florence is a very quaint city in the middle of Tuscany, and Tuscany is a region in the center north part of Italy. Italy, as you know, is shaped like a boot, and we are in the upper north part of the boot. Beneath, a mountain range called the Apennines, which is the watershed for Italy, because on the north we have a more kind of continental weather, and on the south of the Pennines, and Tuscany is the first region south of the Pennines, is more Mediterranean weather. So we tend to have milder climates, little warmer summers, and the Chianti region, it's in the center of Tuscany, between the city of Florence, where I come from, and the city of Siena, right in the center of those two cities. And the Chianti region makes one most important wine, which is called Chianti Classico. Now, a Chianti Classico is recognized because it has the black rooster here on the neck of the bottle. So if you're looking for a real wine from Chianti, you must not just look for a general Chianti, but it has to be a Chianti or Chianti Classico, and it has to have this on the neck of the bottle. The Chianti region, as I said, makes this wonderful wine called Chianti Classico, and Chianti Classico is made with mainly one grape called Sangiovese. The appellation allows producers to make Chianti Classico with at least 80% of Sangiovese, and then you can use other 20% if you want. Other 20% of other red varietals. Those varietals can be local varietals like Canaiolo, like Colorino, like Malvasia Nera, like Ciligiolo. They can be they can be international varietals, like Cabernet Sauvignon, like Merlot, like Syrah, or they can be varietals not from Tuscany but from other parts of Italy, like Montepulciano, like Teroldego, like Ancelotta. So all these varietals can be used in a mix with Sangiovese, but Sangiovese must be the main character. And as I said, at least 80% has to be Sangiovese in order to be a Chianti Classico. My winery is called Villa Calcinaia, and Villa Calcinaia is in the center north part of the Chianti region, in the township of Greve in Chianti. The winery has been in my family for a long time. My family purchased the winery in 1524. Oh, yes, of course. I see I missed what he said about it had to be in a neck of the bottle. The black rooster, this thing here. This is a rooster. The black rooster has to be in a neck of the bottle to be a real wine from Chianti. If it doesn't have the black rooster, it's not a real wine from Chianti. I explain why there's two types of Chianti, why there's a Chianti wine and a Chianti Classico wine. It's a long story, but I will explain it after when we talk about the different wines. What I was going to say, yeah, of course, Villa Calcinaia, it's been purchased by my family in 1524, because we're a family that comes from Florence, and we established ourselves in Florence in the end of the 12th century, beginning of the 13th century. We were bankers and merchants, silk merchants and wool merchants, and we made money with the banking and with the trade, and we started buying properties on the southern part of Florence, because we belong to the southern part of Florence. We are not on the Duomo side, we're on the Piazza Pitti side. That's where our family had their properties, and it was only natural for us to start buying properties on the southern part of the countryside. And so in 1524, we purchased Villa Calcinaia, and I've been running Villa Calcinaia since 1992. The estate, it's, as I always define it, an integrated estate, meaning that we don't make just wine. We make wine, we make olive oil, we make goat cheese, and we make honey. And the kind of the fil rouge, the red stripe that connects all these activities is the organic farming. We've been certified organic since the year 2000, so over 20 years, because it's very important, in my opinion, to be respectful of nature, especially in the place where you live. You should always take care of the things near to you. And we've been farming organically for over 20 years. And one of the main activities, of course, is winemaking. And tonight we'll be presenting 5 different wines. And the first wine I would like to talk to you about is called Comitale. Comitale is a white wine. So it's not an appellation wine, because the appellation allows you only to make red wine. But, it is a white wine which is categorized as IGT Toscana, which means that you can have a little more flexibility, a little more freedom in deciding what varietals you're going to use to make this wine. In this case, in the Comitale, here the name of the wine. Comitale means the count. Yeah, drinking beer here, right there. Comitale, it's a blend of 90% Grechetto and 10% Vernaccia, which are 2 varietals. One it's originally from the Marche region and the Umbria region, and the other one is Vernaccia. It's originally from Tuscany. It was not a blend that was planned ahead. Just so happened that they sold the wrong varietals to my father back in 1967, and he planted them. And the agent, when he realized that the grapevines were not the ones he ordered, went to my father and suggested to make a white wine. And my father tasted the first sample, that was back in the early 70s, and said something like this. I have to specify that my father speaks the Queen's English. So he tasted the wine and said, this is a rather good lemonade. Now we should try to do something better than that. Quindi, then we decided, to improve our efforts, and we've always been making this white wine. It's a great wine for the summer. It's a great wine because it has one specific characteristic, which is the saltiness. And this saltiness helps with food like vegetable dishes. I like it a lot with vegetable dishes. So if you have some, crunchy Brussels sprouts, or you are doing maybe a little bit of goat cheese, this will be ideal with it. It also does very well with cold cuts. I mean, if you have some, prosciutto, if you have some salami, the white wine per se does not have any kind of tannins, so very little of it. So it blends very well with cold cuts because it has acidity, so it cuts through the fat of the cold cut, and the tannins don't clash. There are no tannins, so there's no risk of clashing with the kind of the aromatic, the blood component that it's the base of salami, because they are basically raw meat which has been cured. And it's also a white wine that can improves with age. I mean, I wouldn't hold it in a cellar for 10 years, but if you buy it, and it's 2, 3, 4 years old, I mean, it's really, really delicious, and it becomes what I am having on the shelf right now. It's a 2018, and it has a nice, more kind of amber yellow, sort of maybe amber not, but maybe golden color. And it acquires with age, acquires more complexity, more not just fruit, but a little bit of savory notes, like some medicinal herbs, which makes it, as I said, very good with vegetable dishes.
So, Count, quick question for you on the Comitale. I think people in general are used to California wines to drink now, and more of the Italian and French styles more aging. Does that kind of follow the same rule on some of these more like complicated whites? I mean, I know Pinot Grigio is not much of an ager, but is a Comitale one of those wines that you don't have to drink right away, that you can get a little age under?
Of course, yeah. As I said, I wouldn't lay it down for like 10, 15 years, but if you give it like 4 or 5 years, it will definitely become more complex, and I think it will become more interesting. And the characteristic of the Comitale, it's definitely most of the time the Chardonnays from California tend to have more of a sweet note. This has a more salty note, so it's completely different, and it will work for completely different dishes than like a California Chardonnay, for example. It is a very interesting wine, and I think it's a very complex for a white wine. I think, and it has also a nice weight. If you give them some years, it also gains some weight and on a palate, and makes it it makes a very drinkable, but also complex. So the following wine, it's going to be the Cappone. Now, Cappone, it's the name of the family name. It's the first member of the family that we have records on, or could elect somebody for public appointment. The Cappone is 100% Sangiovese, and as you can see, it has the black rooster on the neck. Now, the reason why Chianti wines have the black rooster on the neck, Chianti Classico wines, have the black rooster on the neck, goes back to the Middle Ages, because there was a time where the territory of Chianti was disputed by the two republics of Florence in the north and of Siena in the south. And they decided to settle dispute by trial. A knight will lead the gates of Florence at the rooster's crow, and the knight will lead the gates of Siena at the rooster's crow. And the meeting point would be the border. The Senesi got a white rooster, and they overfed him, so he's slept too late, and he didn't wake up at dawn. Whereas the Fiorentini got a black rooster, put him in a cage, in a sty, and put a black cloth on top of the sty, And when they took the black cloth away, the animal hadn't eaten all night, so he thought that food was coming. And although it was not yet dawn, but it was still dark outside, he was so hungry that he started crowing like there was no tomorrow. And so the knight left the gates of Florence much earlier than his counterpart, than his rival, and met his rival just a few miles outside of Siena. So with this little trick, the Fiorentini were able to garner under the control the whole of the Chianti region, and for this reason, rooster has become the symbol of the region of Chianti. If you go to Florence and you go to Palazzo Vecchio, which was the old government palace, in the Salone dei Cinquecento, which was the room where the parliament of 500 people would meet back in the days when there was a republic, there's the allegory of Chianti on the Vasari, and in the allegory of Chianti there's a shield with a black rooster on it. So the black rooster is connected to the Chianti region, and the Chianti region must have the black rooster on. Must have. Chianti wine that don't have the black rooster on, and you have Chianti Classico wines that have the black rooster on. It's due to the success of Chianti during the end of the 19th century, beginning of the 20th century, because it was very successful, especially in the United States. And Italians are not very good at planning. They live the moment, as we say, and they said, oh, we need more wine because this small region is not capable to meet the demand, and we should allow people not from the regional region but from around the regional region to make the wine, so we can able to meet the supply. And unfortunately, the producer from the regional region did not do anything to stop this practice. And when they decided to fight the practice, this policy, it was too late. So in 1932, the Italian government established that the producer from the regional region could call the wines Chianti Classico and could adopt the black rooster as the symbol, whereas all the producers from all around the regional region could still make a wine and call it Chianti, and but were not allowed to use, of course, the symbol of Chianti, which is the black rooster. So nowadays you have around 100 and 120 million bottles in the world called Chianti, which are not from Chianti, and you have only 30 million bottles which are called Chianti Classico and are from Chianti. I know it's kind of long and confusing, but this is the history of Italy. I mean, it's very long and very confusing. But one simple rule: just check for the chicken. If the chicken is there, then it's a real deal. If the chicken is not there, then forget about it. Now the Cappone coming to the wine, it's 100% Sangiovese, as I explained. The Cappone comes from the younger vines of the estate, and it's a wine that has a nice fruit core to it, some very nice earthy tones, and it's an ideal pairing for any kind of tomato-based food, like a pasta, or you can do a veal a pizzaiola, or you can do a chicken pizzaiola. You know, as long as you have the sauce, as they call it in Italian, in the United States, the tomato sauce, it really works very well with the wine. Sangiovese really matches the tomato sauce really, really well. I mean, it's I think it's an ideal pairing, and the winemaking, it's pretty straightforward. I try to age all the different vineyards separately for at least a year and a half, and then we blind taste. So we taste all the different lots in a blind tasting, and we decide, you know, which elements are going to compose the Cappone wine. And once we've decided which elements are going to compose the Cappone wine, we blend the different elements in a large cement tank. and then we leave the wine in the cement tank for another 4-6 months, and then we bottle it. And it's a very nice everyday wine, and it's medium bodied, so it's not huge. I mean, it will not smother your food. You can have, I said, from a pasta to a meat dish easily. I would, or a grilled, maybe some grilled sausages will work very well. It's what I would describe as a Monday to Thursday wine. A very nice Monday to Thursday wine. And then in the weekend we can step up a little bit our game, and we can move on the old wine selection. So and we can start with the Chianti Classico Villa Calcinaia. So this is old vines, Chianti Classico. This is the most important label of the estate. The label is, as you see, is a black triangle on a white field, because that's the coat of arms of the family. The family, the first houses that we have built in Florence were next to a church, and the church belonged to the Templars order, and the Templars banner was black and white. So it was a way for the family to show their allegiance to the most important order of the area. And in that way, we're saying, we are new here. We want to do business with you guys. We adopt the same colors, so we know we're on the same side. And you'll find many black and white coat of arms around Europe, and that always entails a presence of the Templars order. And the reason is because those cities where you see a black and white coat of arms are usually on trade routes, and the Templars have invented the letter of credit, which is the first form of a credit card. So they were often on trade routes because they would give the letter of credit to the merchant. The merchant could travel from one city to the other without carrying money, because he had a letter of credit which described him, his physique, and he could go to the next city, and with that description he could get the money from the branch of the bank, of the Templars bank that was in that specific city. So this is a Chianti Classico, but it's vines. So we're looking at vineyards planted 59. My father, my grandfather, Villa Calcinaia, as you can see. It's a 90% Sangiovese and a 10% Canaiolo. Canaiolo, it's a local varietal that kind of mellows down Sangiovese a little bit. I always add it in the Villa Calcinaia Chianti Classico because it brings a little spice, it brings a little fruit, and it does not bring much in terms of acidity and tannins, which Sangiovese already has quite a bit of it. And so the wine, the Sangiovese gives the build to the wine and the structure, and the Canaiolo gives a little touch of I would say of elegance and of finesse. And this is it's a very nice and complex wine. It will go well with again tomato-based dishes, because we already have the Sangiovese, as I said before. It's a great pairing with tomato-based dishes, but also I would try to use maybe a little more prepared food. Meaning that maybe I would pair it with something that has a little more preparation, maybe stewed meats or maybe a pot roast, something with some sauce, because compared to the Cappone, it will definitely have a little more built-in tannins, and so tannins work very well if you have a little bit of oiliness in your dishes, because the oil kind of coats your mouth and creates as I said, an oily effect in your mouth, and the tannins have a drying effect, so which counteracts this kind of oiliness and cleans your palate very well. So anything that has yes, meat, but with some preparation behind it. So, and this is the most important label I make, most important wine I make, because this is usually the first date with a customer. And as I always say to people, it has to be good, because if the first date is not good, there is usually no second date. So this it's our business card, our presentation to the winery for the new customer. So it has to be good.
So, another question obviously we're looking at two different Chianti Classicos here, and you spoke of how this is your flagship Chianti Classico, and it's really more about the old vines. Is there an aging difference to it as well? Because I know, like, you get into Classicos and Reservas and so forth, there's a little bit different aging process. But between the Capponi and the Villa Calcinaia, the two Chianti Classicos, are you making them stylistically the same? Just obviously different, groups and vineyards, but is the aging the same as well?
It's mostly different vineyards. No, the aging is the method of aging is pretty much the same, in a sense that as I try to keep everything separate, all the vineyards separate, certain vineyards will age in cement, certain vineyards will age in large wood, certain vineyard will age in a combination of large wood and smaller wood, and then we'll blind taste, and then we'll do the blending. And for both the wines, Cappone and Villa Calcinaia, the blending will be done in large cement tanks. You're looking at an average production between this and this of 50,000 bottles, so about 25,000 bottles for this and 25,000 bottles for that. So no, the aging, it's pretty much the same. It's the provenance of the wine which changes. Old vines versus young vines. This is another interesting subject. Old vines tend to produce less naturally, so without human intervention, and they tend to be more, make more kind of interesting wines, more complex wines. And also another element of the old vines, because of the fact that they have more wisdom, because they've seen many harvests, they usually tend to be more resilient to any kind of stress, which could be too much water or lack of. And therefore, they tend to produce better fruit naturally. And of course, there are always exceptions, but as a general rule of thumb, older vine will produce less fruit but better wine. Next wine would be the Chianti Classico Riserva. Now, the terms Riserva, wait, I'm going with this. No. This way. Here we go, Riserva. And the sharecropping time, because the Riserva was the part that the proprietor will keep for himself. So usually in the sharecropping time, 50% of the crop will be kept by the proprietor and 50% of the crop will be left with a sharecropper. In the case of the Riserva, usually it was the only wine that was bottled, because the rest of the wine would be sold in bulk, in demijohns, or in fiaschi. This was actually, the Riserva usually was specifically bottled and put aside and kept for special occasions. You have many Californian wineries that call the flagship wine as proprietary reserve. And it comes from the term Riserva or reserve comes from this fact, from the fact that it was a special selection for the proprietor. In the case of Villa Calcinaia, the Riserva in this case is 100% Sangiovese, 100% Sangiovese, and is the best selection of the old vines. In this case, what it changes, the first part of the aging is the same, in a sense, every single vineyard is aged separately. The blending part changes because in this case, the blending is not done in cement tanks, but is done in oak casks. Oak cask about 30 hectoliters, so every oak cask about 4,000 bottles worth. And we usually make 1 or 2 oak casks, depending on the year. This is what we're currently selling right now. It's 2016. So 2016 is about 8,000 bottles produced. And actually tonight we just got a very nice score on Wine Advocate on this wine. We just got 92 points, which is, as I always say, it's a very nice thing to add, but trust, always tell people, taste the wine and see if it kind of meets with your requirements and with your palate. And then you can maybe look at the score and see if there is a connection with your palate and the palate of the journalist. That's always my advice to people, because not necessarily what the journalist says corresponds to what is your liking. So always make sure that that you have a connection with what people write and what you taste. In the case of the Riserva, when it comes to food pairing, I would go a nice food pairing for this wine would be nice cheese. Maybe some more of the more intense ones, like a nice Piave Vecchio, or maybe a Parmigiano Reggiano, maybe a 36 months. So something that has some intensity, and because this is a Sangiovese that has a good amount of structure, and a good amount of persistence, lingering finish. So we will need a kind of food that has the same kind of lingering finish, because the risk is that if you are pairing it with something which is too light, then it will smother the food. And instead, you wanted to find something that has some power and some intensity. Every label that we make has a back label with a member of the family on. In the case of the Riserva, hold on, here we go. The member of the family on the back label is Piero Capponi. And Piero Capponi is one of the most important members of the family. If you come to Florence and you go to the Uffizi Gallery, there is a series of niches with statues in it. And those statues represent the famous people of Florence, which are artists and poets and historians and generals and politicians, you name it. There are 4 statues facing the river. Those 4 statues are the 4 kind of eminent figures of Florence, which have defended the freedom of the Republic of Florence. And amongst the 4, there is Piero Capponi, because Piero Capponi fought against the attempt of besieging Florence by the French king Charles VIII. And he confronted the king because the king wanted a ransom to relieve the city from the siege in 1494. And Piero Capponi was the head of the delegation of the Republic of Florence and went to the king and made an offer. And the king was not happy with the monetary proposition, and he made a counteroffer. The counteroffer was read by Piero Capponi, was torn into pieces because it was outrageous, and the king threatened Piero by saying, "We're going to blow our trumpets," meaning we're going to call the army and invade the city. And Piero's famous reply was, "If you're going to blow your trumpets, we're going to toll our bell, and we're going to call the public to defend the city." And as it happened, because the city was not invaded by the French, and since then, this gentleman here was known as Peter of in Italian history. Okay, last but not least. The wine is called Casarsa, Villa Calcinaia Casarsa house, and it takes the name. The wine takes the name from one of the cottages on the estate, which was acquired by my family in 1643 from the Verrazzano family back in the days. The Verrazzano family are very well known in the United States because the Verrazzano is the explorer who actually found the Hudson Bay, and there's a famous bridge called the Verrazzano Bridge, which connects New Jersey to New York. And in this wine is what we call a Super Tuscan. A Super Tuscan is a wine made in Tuscany for different reason, does not fall into the appellation system. The main reason is because the wine is made with grapes which are not allowed in the appellation system, or not at all, or in percentages not allowed. In this case, the wine, it's 100% Merlot. And as I said before, in Chianti Classico, you are allowed to put Merlot, but up to 20% of it in the Chianti Classico blend. Instead, this is 100%, so it does not fall into the appellation system. So a Super Tuscan, usually it's a wine, it's a high-end wine that does not fall into the appellation system. The Super Tuscan term is not a legal term, it's a marketing term that was invented by an English journalist to define all these wines that for one reason or another did not fall into the appellation system that were made by Tuscan wineries back in the 80s. I was not making a Super Tuscan when I started working at Estate in 1992, and I had no intention of making one. Just so happened that in 1967, my father planted several vineyards, and those vineyards, for a reason that is linked to the flood of Florence of 1966, were planted with wrong varietals. The flood that hit Florence hit also the valley of the Arno towards Pisa, and all the nurseries were kind of invaded by the water, and all the name tags got washed away. So comes the spring, my father bought the equivalent of 14 acres of vines, thinking that he was buying traditional varietals. Instead, he planted all kinds of stuff. And this specific vineyard was not readily recognized. They thought it was some kind of black Malmsey. So, you know, the agent, my father's agent, looked at the vineyard and said, "Oh, this is not Sangiovese. Been calling this vineyard the Black Malmsey vineyard for over 30 years." In 1996, I started making that was not Black Malmsey, Malvasia, which is local varietal. I would say adamant and kind of a little bit, how can I put it, blunt in telling people that I would never plant a single international varietal in my estate. And there it was, planted prior to my birth. So I said, okay, if you can't beat them, I guess we'll have to join them. And in the following year, 1997, I started making my first and only Super Tuscan, which is 100% Merlot, and it's called Casarsa. And the pairing for this wine, I find, because of the profile of this wine, of the fruit profile of this wine, I like it with meats that have a little sweeter tinge to it. I think the best pairing I ever had with this wine was duck and orange sauce. That was a really eye-opening pairing. It was delicious because the duck made in orange sauce has enough sweetness and it has enough sauce to match the tannins of this Merlot, because this is Merlot grown on clay. So Merlot on clay tends to be a little more robust, a little more masculine, a little more tannic in the structure. So I would definitely advise dishes that have a little bit of again, persistence and a little bit of humph to it. And the name for all the wines, Villa Calcinaia, Calcinaia literally means the chalk place. This is the place because we have a lot of calcareous soil. So Calcinaia was the place where in the old days they will extract the chalk to make mortar. So calce in Italian means chalk. So this is the place of chalk. And the other symbol that you see here, Conti Capponi, those are the Capponi counts, so the count. Okay, so I think these are the wines.
So
if you have
I got a question for you on
Sure.
the whole count thing. How does the count actually work? I mean, is your father, your grandfather, were they listed as counts as well? I mean, how does that work in the Italian history?
Okay, yeah. Now the count, in order to be a noble, you need to have. Thank you. Thank you, Renee. Thank you very much. And in order to be a noble, you need to have a king, a ruler of some kind. Now, my family, they are from Florence, and Florence has been a republic, like United States is now, for over 300 years since we established ourselves in Florence. So Florence ceased to be a republic in 1530 and became a grand duchy. With the Grand Duchy, then you had a ruler, and then the ruler started bestowing titles to his retainers. So in our case, the title of Count was given to us in 1701 by the Emperor of the Holy Roman Empire, which was at the time the Emperor of Austria. And then the Grand Duke of Tuscany, his brother, in 1726, gave us another title of Count. So we have double title Count, but it's a more recent thing for us. My granny, who's a Scot, and Scots are known for their arrogance, would say that the title of Count is a very nice addition to the name. And I have to say I must agree with her, because the Capponi family, it's much older than its title. So the Capponi family dates back more over the 800 years. The title dates only 300 years. So if you're applied this thing to the United States, you need to change your form of government from a republic to a monarchy. And then if you have a monarchy, if you have a king, he'll be able to bestow titles. So, and if there's a king in Washington, you can say the Kennedys could be the Duke of Boston, or the Bushes could be the Duke of Houston. So that's the kind of scenario you'll be looking at.
I sadly don't see that happening anytime soon here in the United States.
You never know. You never know.
It's true. I mean, crazy things could happen. I mean, you never know when there's going to be a king, and the president's gone. It's now kings. That would be interesting. That'd be very interesting. Think with us, let America.
History is a circle, always. What goes around comes around.
This is true. This is very true.
So Rome was a republic since it was founded, it was a republic for 800 years, and then it became an empire. There was an emperor. So, maybe United States has been in a republic for 300 years. Maybe, who knows? In 500 years, you'll be an empire. There'll be an emperor in the United States. Who knows?
Never know. Maybe I'll see if I can make that happen. I'll be King Adam.
King Adam. That sounds dainty.
So I had one last question for you. Now obviously we really appreciate that. It's nice when you have these more international shows, because you really learn about the actual, not just about wine. A lot of the shows we do are here local in the U.S. and so forth. So having the Italian aspect, just a lot of people don't have that knowledge. Even myself. I mean, every time we talk and I hear you, I always pick up on new things, and I think it's great. But the one thing I think is really, really cool about your winery is, like you said in the beginning, is that you're an integrated winery. And I've had the pleasure of having your olive oil back, years back, and it was phenomenal. I didn't even know you guys did goat cheese now. Are these things you're importing as well? I know the olive oil comes in, but are you importing the goat cheese as well? And can you get the stuff?
No.
Okay.
No, the only other products in wine that you can get in the United States are the grappa, which we don't we confer the dregs and the skins to the distillery, and we get the grappa back. So and then you can find the vinegar. That same process, we confer the wine to make the vinegar to a vinegary, and then we get the vinegar back, and then you can find our olive oil. The honey, it's a very small production, and the goat cheese, it's only available if you come to the winery. I would love to have you over. I mean, we have some accommodations, so people can come and stay with us, and enjoy a visit to the goat farm, enjoy a visit to the winery, and taste the olive oil. So they can do multiple activities. We have a nice pool, so whenever people are fit to travel and allowed to travel, we'll be welcoming tourists back to our part of the world.
You know, I still have from back in the day when we did that event together. You had these postcards that had pictures of the property, and they're still sitting in my wine cellar right now. They're like some of my favorite pictures. I still have my autographed bottle from you, and I've always said every time I go down there and I look and I grab a bottle from and I see those postcards, I'm like, one day I'm gonna go to Chianti. One day I'm gonna go to see the little Calcinaia winery and check it out. So I hope that day comes sooner than later because I'm getting older. So.
You're always welcome, Adam. You're always welcome. Hope you'll make it over to my side very soon.
Well, I hope so. I definitely will reach out to you. So, but obviously, thank you so much. I know this is very late for you, so thanks for taking the time and talking about the history of Italy and the winemaking in the Chianti region, explaining stuff. We have another chat room that people are posting into, just saying how informative this was. I mean, I've done a ton of shows, and they're great. This has a little bit more of like a really cool like history, geography lesson aspect to it, which was a nice little change of pace for us because we're typically just about the wine. Okay, this is why this grape tastes like this. This had a little bit more like history, and it was I kind of felt like I was watching History Channel on TV or something. So it was really, really good. I really appreciate it.
And you didn't fall asleep, so that was good. That was good.
No, not at all. I'm drinking grape juice right now. It's real good. It's Friday night. I mean, I'm in Arizona, so it's a little early. I got my drinking started pre happy hour, but it's good. It's a beautiful day, so it's just going to continue on.
How hot is there over there?
It's just this week, and we're getting back into the hundreds, between 90 and 100. Wow. So it's definitely getting hot out.
Well,
we had a reprieve this week. It went down to the 70s this week, so like everybody was out doing things because it was so nice out. So, but
fantastic.
We're about to get in the hot season, so that means lots of air conditioning and wine. So we're good.
There you go. Good way to go.
Well, awesome. Okay. Again, thanks again, Count Sebastiano. We really, really appreciate it. Obviously, down the road, would love to get you back on again. I know you have a ton of other wines too, so we can even talk about some of the other ones, some of your higher tier ones, some single vineyard stuff. And I'd really like to dive into that and really talk about the single vineyards and what goes into them. So maybe we can put together something a little special on some of your specialty items.
I'd love to. All
right, very good. Take care. Yep, have a wonderful weekend. Thanks again.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Well, I mean, there you had it, folks. You just got to not only talk to a owner winemaker from Italy, but a count at the same time. Pretty cool stuff. It's not very often you get to have those kind of experiences and meet people that have that kind of history and family history and really learn about different parts of the world and what goes into it, and not just the aspect of wine and how great his wines are. I've had a lot of these wines. Just so everyone knows, I think you're very familiar with Chianti Classicos, but that Casarsa wine, it will blow you away. I've had it before. It is absolutely phenomenal juice. The Super Tuscans, I personally are a lot of my favorites, especially out of Italian wines. But that Casarsa is phenomenal wine. So look around at your local stores. I don't know what states they're all in here in the U.S. I know a lot of our followers are based in Ohio, so they're obviously in Ohio. But we also have followers on California, Kansas City, Arizona, and so forth. So if you are looking for, you're welcome to shoot me an email, adam@winemakerwinetastings.com, and I can let you know where it's at and kind of help figure out who the distributor is and so forth. So if you want to track down those wines, we can do that for you. So thank you for joining us this evening. I hope you enjoyed your Wine Friday night, and we'll be coming back to you soon on some Wine Down Wednesdays. We've got a couple new wineries that we're working on locking in right now, so I will be posting those on our site. If you're looking for upcoming shows and times, just go to winemakerwinetastings.com, and it has all the latest and greatest listed there. With that being said, I'm going to go and finish my wine. It is Friday, and I'm going to start my weekend. I hope you guys all enjoy your weekend as well, and we'll see everybody very, very soon. Cheers.